Healing crystals, skincare routines, knitting a sweater, fitting in jeans. With Katie and Sarah, no need to worry, you're on a lady journey.
Hello and welcome to the Lady Journey, everybody. We are keeping it positive in here. We almost got stuck into a pit of negativity, but we talked about
how to deal with it.
Yeah, sometimes
you can't let it win.
Fake it till you make it.
Laugh in its face is what I say.
That's different than toxic positivity. I think it's a little bit different because sometimes with the acceptance commitment therapy, which is what I'm doing, thank you, you say like, yes, I'm in a bad mood, but I'm choosing to act like I'm in a good mood. And that's my choice.
Yes.
I'm choosing. But I'm really excited because you've got a birthday coming up.
I have a birthday.
So we're thinking of maybe doing a little bit of a tea party.
A high tea.
Little high tea. Tea is like such a fun thing to do. I love tea with a girlfriend, with a guy friend, with a relative who comes to visit, because you get, like we're talking about, we're big buffet enthusiasts, obviously.
Yeah.
If you know anything about us, you know that we love buffets.
We like choice, and I like to eat as much as I can.
Yes. Stuffing myself and doing and having a variety.
Paying $50 for a buffet. Again, we end up just talking about buffets again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole podcast becomes only about buffets. But the seafood tower. But the seafood tower. Oh my God.
Omelet station. Yes.
But
okay,
we
buffets.
love, so I had gone to a tea. I was suggesting that we go to a tea for your birthday because I went to a tea recently with a close girlfriend. We went to Prince Tea House in Chinatown. They've got several locations throughout Manhattan and Queens, and they actually have a few around the country. I think there's one in Princeton. I was looking at their website. So I love this particular tea place. I would consider it to be like really kind of like Chinese French fusion, because the owners are Chinese.
Makes
the
sense.
chef is Chinese, but it's kind of French in the sense that they will have, the tea tray comes out, which it was gorgeous. They had, of course, bottom row. We're starting out. Scones.
See, that's what I like.
Cream,
I want my food
jam.
on different tiers.
The tier was
I want to
gorgeous.
move 2 levels.
But you know what? It was hilarious because we were at like a small table, my friend and I, and they brought out, it was a giant circular, and they just set it. So we had to talk through it. It was very Romeo and Juliet. That's communicating through the chink in the wall.
One of my interior design pet peeves is when somebody has an extremely large centerpiece on an eating table where you're like,
it was inappropriate.
Hello.
Yeah. I wish
I'm
that
spreading the bushes apart.
Hello, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm here. I do wish that they had something a little bit more functional, because we were in a small table, but it was very delicious. Like I'm going to give you, so they had clotted cream. Some of the things that were a little more Asian leaning was they had like
clotted cream.
Love clotted cream. They had a jam. They had like a delicious crab. It was like a crab in concoction in a little dish.
Okay.
So it was like a little spicy. They had a really amazing, it was like a chicken salad, almost like a spice kind of chicken salad on a croissant with like a little mayo. That was really good. One of the desserts, which is this is one of my favorite desserts all time, green tea crepe cake.
Okay.
So
it always seems labor intensive.
Absolutely. And
you have to make 100 crepes.
Those
crepes aren't easy because the first 2 are going to shit the bed.
Yeah. You got to warm up. I think that's why crepe cakes are so expensive. I mean, if you've gone to a place before, and which you could go to like Prince Tea House if you just wanted to get regular tea, but the crepe cake is like $9 for a slice. But it's so good.
I like crepe cake because it stays moist.
That's what I was going to say.
Where like just cake at a restaurant, a lot of the times they just don't keep it moist enough.
It sits there. It sits there for a long time.
I only want to eat cake if it's straight out of the oven in my apartment.
Yeah.
And no one's around. And I barely cook it to the full.
Oh my God. Who's cooking cake? Who has the... I'm cooking a full cake.
I like it when it's mushy in the middle.
Oh my God. The thing also about green tea, I love the flavor of green tea.
I like matcha.
Desserts.
Yeah.
It's not too sweet. It has almost like a
It's got an earthiness, but that's not too like dirt.
It's sweet, but yeah, it really gives it a strong flavor. It's so good. Anyway, so I love Prince Tea House. And one thing that is really funny I mean, I feel like when you go to Chinatown in New York City, you're in like the cutting edge of the future in the same way of like going to Bushwick, Brooklyn, where you're like, oh, I didn't realize that we were wearing that now, you know?
It's, oh yeah. Are you talking about like near Grand Street?
Yeah, where
That's
you're like,
fashion.
see people in like a giant like inflatable suit and you're like, wow, okay, like fun. Someone's out on the town.
You clearly don't work in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that I feel like because people are so young, but in Chinatown, you just end up getting exposed to like, I've never seen this type of technology in any kind of context. They had a robot waiter at this tea place. It was like,
Do you think that was to cut down on sexual harassment?
yeah, it's not gonna squeeze anyone. It comes out. It was very cute. It was almost like the face of it, the front of it looked like a cat. Yeah, it was like a cat. It like rolls out, playing music, and we were like, wait, is there a robot here? And then it was even more hilarious later because I like hear a crash and we're like, was that the robot? And it was just breaking stuff in the restaurant.
That feels so Chinatown. Like,
yeah.
I always feel like in Asian culture, they're like, they have the cat cafe.
Yes.
That's why I want to go to places. I might get to go to China for a comedy gig soon.
Oh my
And I'm looking
gosh.
Hong Kong.
Which
is its own thing, right?
Hong Kong, yes. It's its own
like the
city-state.
DC?
Yeah, it's its own city-state, but China is kind of like encroaching on them.
Okay.
Hong Kong is one of the places I've always really wanted to travel. I feel like it is you're in the cutting edge of the future. The way they live there is so high tech. It's so cool.
I'm like that. I want to go there. I want to go to South Korea. I like Vietnamese, but
Definitely
I
wanna go to
also
South Korea,
in Japan. I've always want to go to Japan. I just feel like the service industry in those places is impeccable, and it just sounds like the stuff they do with food is like nobody else is doing that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Don't you also love when you go to places like that or Chinatown? I go to the Asian market and I try to find their candy. It's always like a gel with sesame seeds or a mochi
or like
bean
like
pudding.
An Oreo flavor that you're like peach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Peach Oreos.
And the design on the packaging is always fascinating, or like it's not it's different to my little Anglo eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a dream of going to Tokyo, and I'm on like Tokyo Visit TikTok.
Yes.
And I love these ideas of like the traditional Japanese breakfast. You stay at like a hotel and it's got like the onsen, the bath there, and it's like a spa hotel basically, but then like a big part of it is like this grand traditional Japanese breakfast with like rice, like steamed vegetables.
Yes, it's
like,
more of a savory breakfast rather than a sweet.
Looks amazing. I'd love to take a trip there.
Yes, I want to indulge in that. So that's why in New York, there are still places that you travel to and you're like, I still feel like without spending money on a plane ticket, I can feel like I'm in another country.
Yes.
Like in the 20s, there's a lot of Korean places.
Yeah.
And they have the bubble tea. You can go, it's weird. You feel like you're going into an office building. And then on the 4th floor, there's like a big mini Asian market and you can try different little places to eat and like pork buns. And,
Koreatown is so fun. I love they have the Korean barbecue too.
And then when we had Natasha on and she was talking about Flushing, like that is a food destination I want to go try out. But like on the tea party journey that we're talking about, a side journey is just go to Chinatown.
Yes, because also there is other options, and this place, Prince Tea House, very specific, almost I would say like French Chinese fusion, but there is also, and in Flushing too, like you could do something, and there's a place like this in the East Village that I saw. I was looking into it. You can do like a traditional Chinese tea service, which is different than like what we're thinking of,
the
a
English
tea party with like
afternoon
sandwiches and whatever. You would go and it's like you're having really expensive like green tea, but it's poured in this meditative ceremonial way. So it's like, it's almost like a mental kind of
I feel like you're not like supposed to be talking or something.
Yeah, you're just there quiet. You're enjoying the tea. That's something I'd like to try too.
Yeah, the meditative part of it. But then I also want to do the one where I eat food
I also
and
want the
shoot
other treats.
shit.
I also want the other treats.
Yeah, I want the tears.
Now, one place that I have mentioned, we already recorded this episode, by the way, and we accidentally deleted it. So it's kind of funny when we have to, we're like, and we're organically talking. One place that I already told Sarah about in potentially a funnier episode, which will never be seen or heard from again.
That happens all the time.
It happens a lot, but let's go into the one place, a tea place I love, which is in the East Village. It's called Chaan, which I believe is Japanese for cup. So Chaan is what I would consider to be like pretty traditional Japanese treats, tea. They have they do have something now, which I think is new. I saw they have a weekend strawberry and cherry like pink tea service.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
$70 per person. You go in and they have, instead of having like the tea tower, like the little tray, they have like these gorgeous stacked wooden boxes, and like in each wooden box there's like
what you put dumplings in.
Yeah, there's like a meringue, there was like a shrimp mousse. Everything's pink. It's so gorgeous. It's like a celebration of spring. The visual element of it is such, it's so much like form as much as function.
Yes. Design.
They have amazing desserts there. Like they have a matcha tiramisu to die for.
That sounds like a really good one. You were explaining the jelly.
Oh, the sakura.
It's almost
drop.
like a fancy Jello mold.
Yes. It's like suspended
where they
in
make like a rose, looks like
a
it's
liquid. They do flowers in there. They'll do fruit too.
Yeah. I'm always like, is that good?
I have never had it, and I want to have it. And I think having it in, the thing about tea, which I love, as we have discussed, is like tasting many different things.
Yes.
And
well, I like finger foods and I like apps. Like I just love dim sum and I love tapas.
Oh, absolutely. Dim sum and tapas, the best.
Amuse bouche.
Oh my gosh.
Is that how you call it?
Yeah, a girl dinner.
A girl dinner,
Tea is a girl lunch.
It is. Well, I just like a little bit of everything. And then later on when I'm like, I really like that. Can we get more of that and not any of that?
Yes. More of this, less of that. There's another, like, so tea, of course, is, I think I read that tea was developed in the French court, or maybe it was the British court, because it was like the women, you know, whenever they would be going out to dinner, they would have to like dress up and they needed a snack. In between. So tea is usually like something between like 3 to 4 p.m. It's a light refreshment. It's tea to keep you going.
Yeah,
for the party.
Pick me up.
So there's French teas, and then there's also the English tea, which is like, well, you would think of like the clotted cream, the scones.
I'm a English breakfast gal.
Oh, of course. Oh, I love an English
like an
breakfast.
Earl Grey, which is actually very florally.
I love Earl Grey. I love Earl Grey.
And I like a milky tea. We talked about, but I think I prefer the English breakfast or the English way of doing the tea. Like I just want the scones with the clotted cream,
the scones,
and then little tiny cucumber sandwiches, which I keep wanting to make.
Yes,
radish sandwiches.
Oh yeah, radishes. A little radish with butter.
Oh yeah,
I've
tried doing that. I've heard that people like the French eat butter, just cold butter and salt with radishes, but I can't when I'm putting my knife and then trying to smear the butter on my radishes.
It's hard to get the right ratio of butter. It's really hard to get the right ratio.
And I'm like this. I think they're full of shit. What am I doing wrong? Like, how is this something that they talk about to eat?
I'd rather have a hummus. Can I be frank? I'd rather have a bean dip, which I made last night, and it was amazing. I made a white bean dip.
White bean dip? Love white bean
with
dip.
With lemon, garlic, a little cumin, and some tahina.
Ooh.
Delicious. But yeah, the butter with radishes, it just...
What is it? Are they just whipping it and then you hit
for me.
The butter in there? Like
give me a... You know what I had radishes with? I had it with an herbed cheese spread.
Okay.
Something like that. Well, I need a little more flavor. I need a little more flavor.
Yeah. I'm so intrigued about eating it in the buttered radish sandwiches.
Yes. So Alice's Teacup is a lovely, I would say very traditionally British tea place.
Yes, I went and I like the decor.
That's where I think I want to take you for your birthday, because they also have they have the full tea tray of the sandwiches, the scones, they have desserts.
And we talked about I want a man with white gloves. To serve me.
Oh my gosh. There's another tea place. Now, Alice's Teacup is like $70 for 2 people. So it's I'd say Alice's and Prince Tea House is around the same. It's expensive, but it's nothing compared to like Chaan with the $70. That's going to be a birthday. That's going to be a lady's birthday.
That's the problem that I had. We tried it. There was a tea place here that opened up on Steinway in Astoria, and we went. And with the amount of money that we paid for what we got, I was like, I guess, are we paying for the ambiance?
Right,
Because
like-
I left, I was like, I got to eat another meal.
Yeah.
And it's expensive.
It's tough, I think. It is expensive, and you have to be prepared to be like, okay, I'm shelling out. But I guess like sitting there, you know, like sitting for 2 hours or however, kind of camping out, which normally if you're at another restaurant, it's like, okay, lunch rush, like get them in and out, out. But like, I think that's a little bit of the appeal of tea is like just not leaving. Let's camp.
Camping.
Let's camp.
Well, my goal is to make a tiered tea party for one of our guests, and I have a guest in mind.
Oh yes, that would be really fun
if we can get
tea
them.
sandwiches, a little board,
Our little
might
board.
be the board lord. Yeah, I'm gonna leave a dangler.
I'm
We'll
about
see.
to call out the board lord.
Where we
I want to be
plan.
like, well, name me a board that you like.
We have a marketing plan in
yet
place.
To see, I've yet to see him like a board.
Yes, that's true. I think he fundamentally disagrees with the board. He's more of a bowl person. But Lady Mendel's is the tea place that I really want to go to in New York, and I have never been. This is the tea place I was telling you in the West. It's like in Irving, which is a very specific area of New York. It's like a very small neighborhood, a moneyed area.
It's a gated community within the city.
Yes. They have
Once you're in there, you're like, this. It feels like there's one place that I walk by that I always feel like it seems like always high society is partying in there.
Oh
like
my
a
gosh.
Gatsby situation. There's always people hanging out outside and they look amazing.
Gramercy Park is
and you're not allowed into the park unless you live in one of the buildings.
And it's actually a city park randomly, but it's like not public. It's wild. I'm sure they pay extra for, you know, I'm sure they have the HOA is probably more than my rent. But,
right. And I've heard, I think I'm going to throw this out there, Jimmy Fallon might live around there.
We think, Jimmy, please come on the show. You've been extended an invitation to critique our boards. But one tea place there, okay, so Lady Mendel's, again, more expensive. However, the big gimmick of this tea place is that all the waiters are really hot men.
Yes.
So what a fun place to go with your girls and your gays. This is a birthday, you know, this is a special occasion tea. This is not your run of the mill. I want to have a scone. Okay.
It feels like what we talked about. It's like where rich men tell their wives, go down. I don't care what you do to my wife. Just wine and dine her.
Yes.
I'm on a business meeting and I can't hear her yapping about her.
This is where you're going to go to blend in like Anna Delvey.
Yes.
When you're scamming people for money or vacations.
Right. Who put themselves there.
You're Truman Capote. You're looking for your swans.
Yes.
Go to Lady Mendel's.
I like that. I want to indulge in that.
And there's a lot of hotels around too that have
the Four Seasons does it right.
Four Seasons,
Central Park.
Saks has a and I would say Saks is probably a bit more expensive. They have a high tea too, which is really fun to go do like
shopping or looking.
If you're window shopping, if you're coming from out of town and you're like you want to do Saks because it's iconic, doing the tea I think is a fun thing to add on.
Yes, I do definitely think that's a fun mother-daughter thing to do. Also, Lex told us Bergdorf.
Oh, that's right. And I have a tip too because I've been really into going to tea time for a while now. I just think it's such a fun treat and it's such a great way to catch up with a friend that you haven't seen in a while. It's like meeting somebody for lunch is fine, but it's like how long is that really going to take? Like 45 minutes max to do like a lunch rush in New York. That's why I like the tea because you can really when I went to the tea last week with a friend, we were there 3 hours and I was there early. So I was there for almost 4 hours. Yeah. It's like great. You don't want to be bothered. But I would actually get back into Groupon. It was huge 10 years ago. Everyone was Grouponing. They were getting...
Is Groupon still around?
Still around. And they have a lot of tea discounts, especially in New York City. And one that I had, this was a while ago. This was about 10 years ago, but I took a friend for her 30th birthday party to the Pierre. And we did the high tea. Or actually, I actually learned this. High tea is an English thing that actually means something closer to dinner.
Okay.
So royalty is what we
like
actually
a lunchtime.
did. Royalty is like the fancy one, but so we did the royalty at the Pierre. We had prosecco. We had all the sandwiches.
I come from a tea family.
Yes. Tell us about your tea family.
Most of the time, my mom would make tea usually around 3 p.m.
Okay.
And I think that usually hits when you're like tired from work.
Oh, and it's
You know
3
what?
p.m. right now and I want tea.
Whenever I worked a 9 to 5, around 3 p.m. is when I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm like, I could go sleep for hours. And then once I get home, I can't go to bed again.
Yes, it is like the lull of the day. I started getting into, ever since I read Design Your Day by Claire Diaz-Ortiz, I started getting into this pattern of, she had this great chapter that was like, know when to stop working. So I've been really working like morning till noon and then around like starting back up again around like 4. But she wrote in the book, she's like, I realize I'm never productive at 3 p.m.
No. Well,
Like you try, maybe you put off stuff in the morning. You're like, oh, all right. You get to it at about 3 and you're like, I don't know.
I'm done for the day.
So it's like, I just stopped forcing myself to do stuff then. And it's actually helped me to kind of have that as a downtime in my day.
Yeah, to accept that
You're like, I have no energy. I can't
at the
think.
time.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not going to come up with a brilliant screenplay right now.
No.
And that's why I do love the idea of tea at home or having a friend over for tea. Oh,
Yeah,
so
and we talked
lovely.
about that too. It's like the nice thing about having an assortment of teas is like it's not like it takes up space in your fridge.
Yeah.
You can just have several packets of tea from different flavors, and it's fun to be like, what flavor do you want?
Yes.
And then in our family, you eat it with this thing we called them digesty biscuits, but it's spelled digestive.
Yes.
That I'm like, I don't know where we got digesties.
I want to buy those on my way home and eat an entire roll
They're
of them.
so good.
In this rain, the choco.
The chocolate covered ones, and I
Yummy.
like putting them in my tea and letting it get soggy. I don't know why I like soggy food. This is
yummy.
really weird. I like pouring cereal in a bowl, putting the milk on top, and then walking away for about 10 minutes and then coming back to it and then eating it.
Very interesting. I like a slight sogginess.
Well, I just don't want I don't want a hard, like I do like a crunch, like maybe
Some
in a chip.
cereal is too hard. I'm with you on that.
My Captain Crunch will destroy my mouth,
Yes.
and I cannot do stuff for days afterwards.
Now, have you ever had this type of cereal? It's called like Weetabix.
I love Weetabix.
Like a soggy Weetabix?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I put a little brown sugar and I microwave it. I used to
yummy.
microwave. I used to get the big mini wheats, shredded mini wheats.
I love the mini wheats.
And I would pour milk and put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds.
Wow.
And get it slightly warm so it mushes up a little bit. And then it
Yeah.
crunches on the outside. That didn't get in the milk.
Mini wheats I don't love because it's too much sugar on the top. That's why I don't like it. I find most sugars, like cereals now, I've kind of
You can't
acquired
start the
a
day
taste away from it where I'm like, I don't want pure sugar in the morning. I want something a little more like savory almost.
Yeah. Well, I just find cereal's a luxury item now.
Oh
I'm
my
not
gosh.
spending $10 on cereal.
Can I tell you my favorite cereal?
Yeah.
I love Raisin Bran.
Raisin
I
Bran's
love
great.
it so much.
I like Kix.
Oh.
I think the reason why I like Kix so much is that it has enough sugar on it, but not a lot, that I keep eating more of it to get a lot of sugar.
That's
It's
Coco
like-
Krispies for me. Coco Krispies for me, where you're like, oh my God, yummy, chocolatey, but it's not overpowering.
Yes, it's got a good flavor base, but the thing with cereals, I will eat it the whole box and still not feel hungry afterwards.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
One box of cereal is a serving. I'm like, I don't care how many calories I consume. If I'm getting one box of cereal, like it's gone that day.
Yes, that's.
Meanwhile,
I've had it for a meal.
I'm like shitting. Like I'm doing a colon cleanse.
Well, they're full of that was in the 80s and 90s. That was always told to us that's a healthy way to start your day, which is so fucking funny to me.
Yes.
How diet is so changes.
Yes. Yeah. It changes and it's so influenced by marketing.
Yes.
The food industry. Like I eat cereal if I ever even eat it, and I also love granola. Don't get me started on that.
Oh, I love, yeah.
God, I love it. But at night, it's like a nighttime treat for me.
I do it when I have spots and Joe's away.
Oh my God,
get
girl dinner.
a box of cornflakes and eat
I
that
love
all night long
cornflakes.
while I'm watching TV.
Love cornflakes, but I have to say I actually do love Whole Foods brand of, they have like Rice Krispies, they have that type of stuff, but it's all they cut the sugar way down.
Yeah.
Like Frosted Flakes, I can't. I mean, when you eat that type of sugar and then you're like, my mouth feels like ass.
Yeah, it's like as we talked about, like the Nate Bargatze joke where you're like, ugh, for some reason I can't do anything today.
Yeah, and you're like,
I ate a whole box of sugar.
You're like saying hi to your friend, but you know that your breath is horrific.
Yes.
Like, hi. I mean, I'm tasting a bad taste.
Yeah.
So it's too sugary for me. But going back to having tea at home, I love having a friend over for tea as a kind of activity. Like, meeting up for coffee is nice if you don't live in the same place.
But nowadays it's gotten expensive. At least tea's like just herbs with water.
Yeah, coffee is expensive. Like, there's nothing more. Tea is such a soothing activity.
It is. It's one of those. My mom would always know if something horrific happened in our life. She's like, "Let me put on the kettle. Let me draw you a bath." It was always draw you a bath and put on a kettle.
Yes,
nothing. You'll feel a bath and a cup of tea is all you'll need to save you.
Yes, a little home remedy.
Yeah.
But I like having people over for tea. Not that I do it that often, but every now and then to have somebody over and be like, oh, let's have a cup of tea. And then putting out like a few little biscuits or something.
Have you ever gotten a tea set?
I would love to get a tea set. When I turned 35, I was like, I really want to get a tea set for myself. And I still haven't, only because I just don't have the space and I don't know when I'm going to move again. But I
love the aesthetics of it, like holding the top while you pour.
Oh, it's
the sound
beautiful.
that it makes.
It's such a beautiful piece.
And to give a cup that has its own dish.
Beautiful. It feels like every grown woman should have her own tea set.
Yes.
My mom got one.
It's like when you get your period, you should get a tea set.
Get your tea set. And then, my mom got one. My mom got a really beautiful one. It was more for, I would say, like green tea, like Chinese tea. It was a steel teapot with the beautiful glasses, no handle.
Yeah.
So a little bit different, but I love. It's like nice if you're like, okay, let's have a green tea.
Yeah.
We'll use it in the appropriate container.
Yes. I used to have one and I don't know why. When I reflect on my life, I had so many things and I don't know where they are.
Oh my gosh.
Where I'm like, what happened to
like
that?
Reverse hoarding.
Well, I think you're just like, when you do so much moving, you are like, get rid of it. I can't.
It's not worth a pinched nerve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But now here's what I would serve if I was having somebody over for tea in my house. I love a tea sandwich. Okay, let's get started off. Tea sandwich, very easy recipe. We used to do, when I was working at the preschool, we would do tea with the kids. So we would do mint tea, obviously no caffeine, but we would always do whole wheat brown bread, cream cheese with dill, fresh dill and chives, maybe if you want to get fancy, thinly sliced cucumbers, and that's kind of it. And you cut it up and it's like putting these simple things together becomes something
decadent.
So decadent. And what we would do too at the preschool is we would have cookie cutter. Instead of cutting the
put
crust
them like
off,
little stars,
a little circle. Yeah, very cool.
I've seen moms do that, like make their kids bento boxes every day, and you're like, I'd love to be that mom, but I just picture one day of that, and then being like,
you're like, my life is falling apart.
I can't wake up at 6 a.m. to make you a lunchbox.
I can't do strawberries in shapes. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind. Yes, I do agree with that. I wish I could do that for myself.
Yes,
bento boxes, again, small portions of many things. The love of my life.
That bento box is one of those things that every time I see one in the store, I have to be like, you don't need it. You don't need it.
I know.
You do not need it.
There's an internal struggle of like, because it's like,
I like it.
I'm not taking my lunch anywhere. I don't work in an office.
Even when
that means I'm filling a bento box and then eating it at my home.
Right. And then like, are you really getting full from a stuffed bento box for your lunch? Because all you can pack in a bento box is like 4 cucumber slices, wet carrots.
It's very small.
4 cheese slices. And you're like, oh, I'm starving. Anytime I brought my lunch to work, I was like, I'm starving.
Yeah, you can't. However, I will say, love a bento box like takeout.
Yeah,
a little salmon teriyaki with a miso soup.
Yeah, a presentation.
I'm so hungry right now. Yeah. Every time I end up getting hungry during the podcast, we just veer into food. Let me tell you what I want to eat right now. Okay, is this content?
Happening is that I have breakfast at like 8:30.
Okay.
And then by the time lunch happens, it's time to like get ready for the podcast. So then I haven't eaten for lunch.
Yeah.
And then when we do the podcast, I'm like, I want to eat.
We're gonna have to go on a snack run.
Well, that's why I'm like, I'm gonna probably start trying to make sandwiches the night before and just like serve it up for
a little
podcast.
Yeah. Oh, fun. I also went to a tea-themed bachelorette party. Oh my God, how hilarious. A tea-themed baby shower one time. This I thought was
I would do a tea-themed bachelorette party.
very fun. Very fun. This girl who organized this baby shower, she was someone I worked with at the preschool. She was one of the most imaginative people I have ever met in my life.
Some of the most, impressive, where you're like, what are you doing as this job?
Yeah, like you could be J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
Like, but pre being a TERF.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she organized this. It was more, she was calling it Victorian themed baby shower, but we had tea, of course. Everybody brought something. I brought deviled eggs, which is an amazing tea food. And one girl did bring tea sandwiches. Well, she bought the tiny slices of bread, which they have. So she bought like
the Pepperidge Farm thing.
Like they have like teeny white bread, teeny rye. So she mixed and matched with that. And what this woman also did, we all wore florals, of course.
Yeah.
And then the woman who organized it, she had gotten everybody's list of what they were making. And then she made little special cutout cards for each food, telling it what it was, and they were all in reference to Victorian novels. Like my particular food, which is the only one I remember, was Heathcliff's devilish deviled eggs. And it was such a simple touch for a party that she was just putting words on paper on toothpicks.
So it probably didn't break the bank to do something like that.
Elevated it. It put it on another level.
Oh my God.
On another planet.
How fun is it if you do something like that, just to make a little menu on a card?
So delightful. Put it at the place setting.
Yes. Birth control.
Sorry, I'm getting an email for my TikTok. I love TikTok. I get the most.
Yeah, one person like it. You're like,
Someone
I'm going to
sent
need
you
a little
message.
bit more than that to open up.
No, thank you. But anyway, that was kind of our around the world journey of teas. I don't know any other cultural teas. I'm just going based on the ones that I've been to in New York City.
There is a Russian tea room, and I told you
that's right.
That one where I had vodka. This is not my drinking it, but then they did serve this tea that you put like cherry cordial into it, and that was delicious.
Did you have like a tray of snacks at the Russian tea room?
No, I think you can. There's an episode of Sex in the City where she meets Mikhail Baryshnikov, but I forgot his name.
Alexander, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And they have tea at like an outlandish time, and I think that's the place that I went to.
That's a really fun one. I would love to try the Russian tea room.
Yes.
But
that one's hard because you're like, am I against Ukraine if I go to the Russian tea room?
Right. You have to immediately go to Veselka.
Yeah.
You immediately go to a Ukrainian restaurant.
But you're like, but it is in America and they did immigrate over here.
Yes. I think they're American.
Yeah.
I think you're not supporting Putin. Half of this money is going to Putin. Well, Russian food I find to be quite tricky because it is a very different palate from what my own is. It's a lot of kind of like cold fish.
Not into.
Yeah, they do have I studied abroad in Moscow, as it's known over there.
Yes.
And I do remember feeling really out of sorts with the food. Like I could eat borscht. I could get that like pelmeni, which is their dumplings.
Stew.
Yeah, they have the dumplings. But like it is a lot of food that I was not accustomed to. So I really would love to go to tea there and see like what are they doing in terms of like tea sandwiches.
Yeah,
I'm interested because I think the tea that we know of it as like women sitting, chatting, having treats is very English and French because they're so close together. So it almost feels like when other cultures are getting into it, it's almost a fusion, an interesting fusion. And that's why I like it too, because it's one of the only times that I am into fusion.
Yes.
Food fusion, I would say, because usually I think, and I heard someone say this when I was tour guiding. She was talking about fusion. She said she was a chef, and she said fusion is confusion. Like, what are we eating? I don't know. So I've never been, I guess that swayed me. I've never been a big fusion food person.
Gotcha. But you know what? Most food or cuisine is naturally a fusion after hundreds and thousands of years of colonization and takeovers, and that
do agree.
Like Vietnamese food has a huge French influence.
Yeah,
and I love it.
And one thing I learned actually too, since we were getting into Koreatown for a second, is one thing
I love Koreatown, and I love Korean chicken wings.
That's what I was going to say. I love
fried chicken
Korean
in Korea.
Fried chicken.
So good.
Well, I heard from a guy who I had done a different show with. This was a show I was doing on Amazon, and we were talking about game day food. You know, and I was talking about I love fried chicken. I love wings. And he had said, interestingly, Korean fried chicken was actually during the Korean War. African-American soldiers who had taken their practice of doing chicken from the South, like Southern fried chicken, Southern cooking, they actually introduced it to Korea.
Oh, fascinating.
Isn't that interesting?
That's the thing about food that I really, really love, where you're like, oh, why is this in here? And you're like, oh, because it's on the like spice trail.
And then it becomes its own thing. It's like, oh, Korean fried chicken. But have you ever had... we need to wrap up here, but I want to say one more thing about Korean fried chicken, the snow cheese.
No.
Oh my gosh, it's like a light, it's almost like, it's like Parmesan. I don't think that's the type of cheese it is, but it's that finely grated on top.
It's like fascinating.
Delicious.
I feel like Asians aren't really known for cheese, making the cheese.
Yeah.
It's not part of their culture. Is maybe milk not part of...
I don't know. I know.
They like the cow. Is that part of it? Meaning like the cow is sacred. I'm just now making horrific stereotypes.
We're going to have to end the podcast. We're going to have to end it permanently. Well, I know one thing that's interesting to me about international culture, international food culture, is that like we all historically and ancestrally have eaten different things. And that's why you see people now have things like gluten intolerance, gluten sensitivity, lactose intolerance, or even like not being able to metabolize alcohol as well. And you trace it back to the roots and you're like, oh, well, if you're not from like a Mediterranean culture or like country, like your ancestors didn't metabolize alcohol as well. Or like in Africa, for example, I don't think that they used wheat a lot. So a lot of people with African heritage do have gluten sensitivity.
Oh yeah, it always blew my mind that a huge gluten sensitivity is in Italy and at northern Italy.
Oh, in northern, yeah, where I guess they would do more like
pasta.
Risotto.
Yeah, which I thought that was so fascinating.
The food, I find that fascinating too, and I only know this from dating an Italian man, is the food in northern to southern Italy
quite different,
drastically different. Well, because if we go to a northern Italian restaurant, he's like, yeah, I don't like it. Didn't like it at all.
Isn't it the border of near the Swiss Alps?
I think so.
Yeah. It's that's always like Europe's crazy.
Tuscan food is different than like the southern Italian.
Well, that's like Spanish food.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Puerto Rican food and Dominican is quite different than like say Cuban.
Yes.
To Mexican.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like fast. Like you just get
thing.
Closed-minded, I think a lot of people, including myself, that you're like, oh, how fascinating that this is actually a quite different flavor base. I would assume that it'd be very similar, but it's not, because just because they're Spanish speaking, it's quite different.
Yes. White women. White women talking about the world,
about cultures.
You know, I want to say something. We throw this out there. We do talk about different cultures on Lady Journey, especially in terms of food, and we are white, but we're being brave. And if we say something wrong, we're very sorry.
We're very sorry.
And we're happy to make a public apology at any time.
I like learning new things. So
we like
anything you know more of than I do, of course.
I love learning about different cultures through food. And I'm also, I love putting it out there. Like, if we've said anything wrong as white women, I will never fight an apology. I will apologize immediately and say whatever you want. I'm happy to do it. And I hope the buzz skyrockets the podcast.
Right.
We're trying to get some negative buzz on here.
We need some haters.
We need haters.
Well, no, did you ever watch the David Chang documentary about like racism and food?
Oh, yeah.
Meaning like MSG always got people were so shitty towards Chinese food and being like, oh, the MSG. And then you're like, MSG is in everything you eat. And it's just like that. I don't know why they
were
got
like, oh, it's a
singled
chemical.
out.
It's like salt is a chemical.
Yeah.
Salt is also a chemical.
And this one was also, I've probably said this on the podcast, but I also found this so fascinating. Like dumplings and raviolis cost the same and have the same labor.
Yes.
But yet raviolis for 4 is $18.
Insane.
You get 4 dumplings.
$4.
Yeah.
Okay. Gun to your head.
Gun to your head.
Gun to your head.
This is great.
Would you rather have ravioli or dumplings? I'm talking like the dumplings. Let's just give a context for the ravioli. Let's say it's a mushroom cream sauce. Okay.
Gotcha.
The dumplings are a pork and chive fried dumpling because you're having a wild day. You did not choose boiled. You chose fried.
Well,
Or steamed, rather.
I love stuffed pastas. Mm-hmm. Every time I get a ravioli, I do look forward to it, but I'm always like disappointed that I don't get that many.
I'm going to have to choose dumpling in this scenario. I
Yeah.
have to say I love pork and chive is Vanessa's dumplings, pork and chive.
And they're like sesame pancake
Oh, I love the sesame pancake. Vanessa's, you got to check it out.
with the vegetable matter in it, like just like onions
the carrots,
and like carrots
little
and stuff like that.
greens, and the
I
roast
haven't
pork.
gone to Vanessa Dumplings in a long time, but that would be one of my favorite places to go eat at in the city.
Absolutely
because it's
delicious.
so cheap.
I'm not a big ravioli person. Historically in my life, I've always enjoyed it, but it's not.
The only one I
it's
like is
never when I'm
butternut
ordering.
squash.
Yeah, I'm never ordering it at an Italian restaurant.
Well,
I like bolognese.
Yeah, you don't get good bang for your buck with
Yeah.
the ravioli.
Yeah,
I find it to be a
risk.
It's a risk. Yeah,
It's a horrific waste.
it's a ripoff.
Anyway, let us know if you've tried other teas in different cultures. That's what I'm interested in. And let us know any other tea experiences that you've had in places outside of New York.
Anything that we were wrong about.
Yes, or do
Call us
comment below, and because we're open to learning.
All right,
Lady Journey.
Lady Journey.